Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer 7813 HD-639 horizontal spring pivot with floor plate, heavy duty, non-hold open, double acting floor pivot in a satin bronze finish. So this is the business end of it. That's the lower mechanism alone, itself, I should say. I'll show you all the components before we get into the installation aspect of this. So the part that you see, there's going to be two floor plates, and they are identical. And again, this is in the 639 finish, so that's US 10 or satin bronze. Okay, they're identical plates. Showing you the back of it there. Okay, and the plates go at the bottom, and again there's two of them I showed you. Here's a heel plate in a complementary finish. You wouldn't call it US 10, but it's in a bronze tone. Curved, and we'll go over that in a moment, why it is. You're going to have the top pivot. I'm going to take that out of the package here and show you. This is the portion that holds the door secure to the header. It's a two-piece assembly. Okay. It's the portion that goes to the header that we're showing to you right here. This plate projects into the top of the door with this plate. Look like that. Okay. You're going to have a bag of screws here, unfinished screws, 4 of them that you see, the zinc colored screws. Those would secure the body to the bottom of the door. Then that little machine screw there, that's going to hold the heel plate on to the edge of the assembly, and I'll go over that in a moment. Then you'll have a bag of finished screws, and those are basically going to hold the 2 plates onto the face of the door on both sides, then hold the body down to the floor. Okay. The last thing will be a tension rod, and I'll show you in a moment where that goes. So first of all, Bommer is a full line manufacturer of these double acting floor pivots. They make standard, they make light duty, medium duty, heavy duty. They make them with floor plates like these. They make them with jam brackets. They make them hold open. They make them non-hold open. This is a specific variant of all of those options as a heavy duty, floor plate only, non-hold open. Okay, all of these are available in every architectural finish. You know, if it's not listed in the website, Bommer can make it for us, so that's no problem. And moving on, talking about light, medium, and heavy duty, there's a guide below this video showing what kind of door size you're dealing with. Up to 150 pounds, that's first of all. Okay, 3-foot wide doors, 1 3/8 to 1 3/4 they're going to handle. If your door is heavier than that, this is really not the kind of hardware for you. If your door is lighter than that, you're going to want to look at their 7811, their 7801, medium and light duty material, because you can only control that spring so much, and you're not going to be able to back it down. Your door could be too hard to open, is what I'm trying to say. So be sure to follow the guidelines. Okay. While I'm holding this, and we're going to go over the entire installation aspect next, you set the tension on this spring with the tension rod, and you insert the tension rod into the tension collar there, and you can turn that clockwise or counterclockwise. And that tension collar is connected to a threaded spindle in here that you see. This part's not threaded, but over in here it's threaded. And that will control where that spring is going to be positioned as it's forced to compress as a result of the door being operated. This portion here you can see slide in and out as I emulate working the door. and that is directly connected to forcing the tension collar against that spring, and in effect compressing the spring. This whole assembly is all connected. This portion here rides over this lobed portion here, okay, and all of that pushes in and makes the spring compress. That's how that works. Okay, so let's talk about how you get these installed, how you machine the door. If you have no interest in knowing how to machine them, or at least hearing me talk about that prospect, pretty much the video is going to end there for you, I think. I have machined doors for these a number of times. I have installed these a number of times. I have seen doors installed with these in commercial applications and residential applications. I have seen them installed in applications that are decades old. This is a tried and true piece of hardware. Keep in mind it's a spring, so it's not hydraulically controlled, so it's a spring, meaning you can't really control it nice and smoothly. But if you have a door between a dining room and a kitchen, either residential or commercial, this is a great piece of hardware. There's no doubt. The link below this video to the template and to the instructions would be good for you to pull up and review along as I'm speaking about this right now. And I've got them pulled up. And the bottom line is they both give very similar information, and I'm looking this way because I'm looking at the templates on another screen. They give very similar information in terms of the machining of the door. However, the link known as, I think, installation instructions gives you those steps as it relates to actually getting the door in the opening after you've machined it. So let's start at step one. Step one shows on the instructions, and I really think for this video we can just not deal with the template because everything is on the instructions. So step one shows an 1.5 radius on the edge of the door, and that, first of all, could be difficult for somebody to do if they don't have the proper tool. But let's talk about it. Basically, you have to put a radius on the pivoting edge of the door in order to make this work per the template. Think of the top row of tile in your bathroom where the top of that is what they call bull-nosed. Imagine if you had a bull nose on both sides of your door. That would be called a radius. Think of my fist as the square edge of the door, and my frame, my hand is the frame. You can envision that as this opens and closes, the outside edge of the door is going to interfere. The frame will be in the way of the door operating correctly because there's not enough room. Now, if I took that door and I radiused it all over, then you'd be able to get a nice tight margin because those outside hard edges of the door have been radiused over. 1.5 radius is definitely the idea, and that will work for you. You don't want to have a larger radius because it won't be a small enough radius to still actually work. You might have too slight of a radius on the door and it will still bottom out into the jamb. So 1.5 radius is a safe way to go with that. That may not be a router bit that you have handy. And when I've done it, because I've done it in a production setting, I've always had a tool. If you're doing it in a shop setting and you don't, we could do this on a CNC router as well, but if you're going to do it with a hand router like most people would, I had at least a horse or a horse and a half or hand router that I took the base and I cut the base of it open, preserving the holes that hold the base onto the bottom of the router, so that I could get a 3-inch diameter round over carbide tipped router bit into, okay? And I would have that set to the proper depth, assuming I was always doing 1 3/4 doors, because in a commercial setting that would be more appropriate. Where I would take the door and set it down on sawhorses, And I would take my router and start over here after I've clamped it down. Don't let the door move on you, because you got a lot of router and you got a lot of bit, a lot of gyroscopic action happening. Place that router, and your round over bit's going to have a bearing collar on it. Get that to the door, and then I would just slowly walk that down the door. And I would typically make 2 passes on it. And be very careful that when you get to the end of the door, you're not pushing towards the center of the door. You want to just exit straight off. Otherwise, you're going to unintentionally round over the bottom of the door. You can then flip the door over and do the same thing. And if you've got all that set up, you really ought to just do the opposite end of the door as well, if you want. Because preparing the edge of the door to that sort of margin will allow you the 1/4 inch between the door and the frame on both sides. If you have a square edge door, you have to increase that margin for that reason that we talked about earlier. That's the first and hardest hurdle to get over with doing this in terms of having the machinery, having the tool. However you do it, you have to put a radius on this door. Now, you don't have to, but I would, and I don't know the math on what that would work out, but you're probably going to have to take that 1/4 inch dimension and turn it into 7/16, step 2, by the way, 7/16 or thereabouts, so you have a huge margin between the door and the jamb on both sides. Okay, you can do it, it'll work, it's just will be a large margin. And if you were to have a radius that would be maybe a little bit more aggressive, you could probably, you know, turn that 1/4 inch into 3/16 or whatever. You could turn it into 1/8 of an inch as well. Keep in mind that when you're doing this preparation on a door, if it's a typical commercial solid core wood door, door veneer is technically, it's like a plywood. And as you take the router bit, you accentuate the layers of that plywood, and you'll see that more. If you have a cherry veneer door and you put a router around that, you're going to see the crossbanding underneath the veneer, so keep that in mind. That could be problematic. Step 1, you've got a radius everywhere that you need it, your vertical stiles. Step 2. Step 2 talks about mortising the top of the door and the header for the top pivot assembly. Now, looking at the template, and that's what I'm doing right now, I'm actually I'm looking at the template on another monitor. You can see that the edge of the door to the center, we'll just use the door portion, the center of the hole is 1.5 inches from the edge of the door. Now keep in mind that you're going to be 1.75 inches on your head portion because you got a 1/4 inch gap. And you can see that the mortise is called out as 1 inch. Mortise 1 inch diameter, top of door and header, 5/32 deep as shown. Then you've got some 5/8 dimensions, which would be the center line of this circle to this circle to this circle. When I've done this in the past, I'd have a Forstner bit, a 1 inch Forstner bit, and I would make 3 little cutouts to the same depth, okay? And then that plate would fit in there really nice. Use the center punch when marking your holes, okay? The depth, you're going to want to be careful with the depth, but a Forstner bit always allowed me, being generally lazy by nature, allowed me a way to get a nice clean finish and not have to do any sort of additional handwork. The header, the top of the door portion is the same preparation, except that you've got to drill that 5/8 hole 5/8 deep as measured from the top of the door. Okay, now you got the top of the door and the header all measured, or all laid out. Before we go to step 3, it's really important that the place where this is installed in the header is the same vertical axis as where it's going to relate to the bottom of this. The vertical axis of these two have to be plumb bob straight. Okay, keep that in mind. It has to be that way. Otherwise your door's not going to work correctly. Okay, that the hardware has to be vertically perfect. Plumb. It has to be plumb. Moving to step 3. Step 3 is really easy. It looked a lot of dimensions. The bottom line on step 3, the first time I did this, many years ago, all you have to do is make this fit to the bottom of the door. It's that simple. And what you've got here is dimension on the, you got 5/16 where you're going to mortise here. From the top of this to the bottom of the door, 3 5/16. So 5/16 thick, 3 5/16 down, or from the bottom of the door up. That's the way I should be saying it. Then you're going to go over 8 3/8 from that mortise to where this is going to end, and then another 3/16. But you're going to do only the 5/16 thickness of the plate, 8 3/8 over for the body, and that's going to be 1 7/16 deep. Okay. Then you're going to go 5/32 deep here, 3/16 over. The last thing you have to do is accommodate for the travel of that portion of the bolt, or of the assembly, the pin holding, connected to there. 1/8 inch. You could probably go a little bit deeper than that. 1 3/4 over from this preparation, 1.5 inches long. And once you, and that's also shown at the bottom of step 3. Once you have all that cut, this should fit like hand in glove. Square your corners, okay, on your mortise. Now, when I've done this, I've always had a template, a fixture for doing it. I would make a piece of plywood that would be cut out to that, such that I could use my plunge router and nicely do that. Now, that sort of preparation is going to put you in a situation where you still have to do some hand chiseling, but that's the bottom line that you're going to be dealing with that. If you have you could also do it. I've seen people do it, a lot of this with circular saws as well, which is not how I would do it. I use a router for everything that I can. I make a template. If I'm going to do more than one of these, take the time to make a template, because they're going to go fast. At the end of step 3, if you have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me. This body should be installed. It should be fitting into the bottom of the door really well. Step 4 is physically attaching this, making sure that your axis of pivoting is plumb. Simple. Step 5 is now getting it installed, and what they're going to have you do now is your hardware is going to be attached to the door top and bottom, and you're going to tip it into the opening. You're going to make sure that the door operation is good. You're going to mark your holes. Okay? You're going to pull that out, drill your holes, bring it back in, attach your hardware to the floor, and then at that point you should be good to go. It should be operating nicely, plumb. Okay? It's at that point, once everything is secure. And by the way, those unfinished screws, I was incorrect. These unfinished screws are for the top pivot. The screws for holding the body on are going to come from inside of this package. Okay. They're going to be the large round head screws that are in here. Sorry about that. Once you got the door in, you'll be able to set the tension on your spring to make sure it operates correctly. And then at that point, the very last thing that you do is you attach your face plates. It's basically going to look like that. And then you can see, if you imagine that there are 2 of those, your heel plate's going to have to go on there as well. It's going to end up looking like that. And that's why you need a radius on that plate, because they're assuming that you're going to radius the door, which is really the way to do it. That, in effect, concludes everything that I'm needing to say about this. Great quality hardware. Bommer is really the reigning champ in this material. You really can't see their logo. If you can, right above it, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer 7813HD-639, double-acting, heavy-duty, non-hold open pivot assembly, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.